Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're here to actually see what's going on with SOLIDWORKS Electrical in 2016. There's a lot of exciting new features that are here, and I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and your afternoon lunch here to be able to actually visit here with us for a few minutes. We will try and at this point see everything that we've got going on. So I'm going to actually show you a couple of things here. We're going to get to a simple UI, some rights management features, nodal indicators, project snapshots, import PCB and formula managers. We've got some project macros. There's ways to add to harnesses that are different than what you had before, as well as some report filters in case you've ever gotten into those custom reports here. And then, of course, we also have a restore panel and an update subscription. So what I'm going to do is just jump right into those because, of course, it is going to take us a little bit to get through that. We've got a lot to go through in a half an hour here. So the first thing you might already notice is that we have a new task pane over here on the right-hand side of your screen. What that is allowing you to do is be able to see anything that you are normally doing a right click with. So any type of like this disconnect that we are looking at here. If I right click normally, I go into properties, I can then go ahead and see what's going on with it. Notice that right away the component properties are popping up here on the right hand side. What you have available to you is the minute, normally it will pop up with this pen over here on the right hand side. The minute that that pen is activated, it's always going to be activated unless you close it. So if I then jump into another device, it's going to automatically be here. I can edit everything here, the descriptions, the parts that are associated to it, even the actual numbering. So that being the case, I can start now having a lot less mouse clicks to be able to do a lot more information without constantly having to go to another dialog screen. That one in itself has helped me tremendously when I'm doing any type of work now with this 2016. The next one we're going to look at, and that is the simple UI that I'm referring to. It even allows you, when you are selecting a page, notice that the page information is here. Same thing even with the project. No matter where you're at in the software, if that pane is open, it's going to give you that information. Let's jump right into the next one here, which is the rights management. I'm not sure if you're familiar or not, but under our rights management, we have, under interface configuration here, a rights management tool. This allows you to be able to control who can edit specific parts of the project. Here you can actually do it for the configurations as well as utilizing the software. You can actually set this up for portions of the project. You will actually have to set up an administration to begin with, and then once you do that, you can actually set up per user who can actually edit what part of the software. Therefore, you can lock down your libraries, you can lock down your title blocks, you can even lock down specific projects or parts of projects. If you are looking for some help in that area, please just go ahead and let us know here at DSI and we will help you go through that. If you're familiar with setting up rights management, then there's no problem with that. Onward we will go. The next thing that we have, you are probably very familiar with these wonderful pink dots that we use for the nodes for your wires. These pink dots, basically considered nodal indicators, are actually set up under your project configurations. So if you go under your project configurations here to the project and go to your graphics area, you will notice right now I have a check for a pink dot to be displayed. If I go ahead and uncheck that, I will be able to then remove those. What you also have available now, which some people are more used to seeing than the pink dot, would be something along the lines of this nodal indicator, what this nodal indicator is then doing is showing you more of a workflow for which ways the wires are entering or leaving a specific piece here. So as you can see here, I can go ahead and set that. I can also even edit how that is coming in. So if I wanted a different style, it would just be a matter of which order I wanted to actually place this. So you can actually change that, but even on a standard schematic sheet, let's go here to like our PLCs, you can see which way things are actually dropping in or going forward depending on what you are asking for. So you can see I have forced some of them to actually be shown and some of them not. But this will give you that wire order. You can actually see that wire order if you come in here and look at your wire cabling order. You can actually change which one is entering, which one is leaving. There's a number of ways that you can actually change that, but I wanted to show you that that existed. Now, one of the other things that is really kind of cool here, you are probably familiar with creating, I'm going to go ahead and change this back just so that way I'm not constantly jumping back and forth here. You are probably used to creating archives of your project. For those of you that I have worked with, I've mentioned archiving your environment before you do an upgrade. I've also talked about the fact of archiving a project so that you have a step for where you are in a project if you are going to build off of it to either to create a project template or maybe it's just a milestone. What we have now is the availability of doing a project snapshot. What this project snapshot is going to allow us to do is under process here, you can take a snapshot and you have Snapshot Managers. What this is doing for you is taking your project wherever you are at and actually making an archive without you having to go and close the project, make an archive. And at the same time, it's still dropping it into the same spot that you were looking for. So if I take a snapshot of this, it's going to give me a date as well as my project name so I can redo it here, create that added description here for what this archive is. Once I go ahead with this, it will just go into that entire archiving process by one click now. You are not having to go back through to the project manager. This also works real good even with your EPDMs. It will automatically go ahead and create this snapshot and allow you to put that into your vault as well as other ways that you have already linked your vault if you are using a vault type scenario. All right. That snapshot is created. If I look here under the management, you will see that I have a management tool here available as well so that you can actually do some information here as far as restoring it as a new project if you want, keeping it just as a stepping stone. Let's jump into the next one. Our next one is import of PVCs. Now, PVCs, printed circuit boards, if you work with those, you will find that we are going to be coming out with something new here. You first notice that we've got this inserted printed circuit board icon. This icon will then allow us to either bring in a part that you've already created, maybe on another software. You can do some importing that way, but you can also create a new one. And when you create a new one, what it's going to do is then ask you to find a specific file. Here I've got it set up for my macro converter from one of the other softwares, but you can then come in here, you can work with 3D, you can actually bring in a PCB from 3D, you could then make a drawing of it if you wanted, use that drawing as a symbol that you could then go ahead and create for the schematic with some connection points. Service Pack 3 is going to be coming out, I'm assuming late April, early May sometime. That printed circuit board information is then going to allow you to continue. That feature is just now being started, whereby Service Pack 3, not only will you be able to do the insert of the printed circuit board, but you are going to be able to take and work in our PCB and PCB connections to create that 3D model with a SOLIDWORKS part. And then from there be able to bring that into a schematic type format. You'll be able to do everything from traces and creating those components right there in the PCB software. Bring it into your 3D model to be able to actually size that printed circuit board, and then you will be able to bring that into the schematic to do all the wiring from it. So when that comes out, be looking for that. We'll be talking more about that quite a bit when it comes to 2017. But just for a heads up, that's why this is here now, is we're going to be taking that one step further and give you more of a complete package. Now, all right, let me jump into the next thing. Now, this one I'm really excited about because this one a lot of people have problems with. Everybody likes to create wire numbers, component numbers, but of course they're looking for some help with how to create certain things. What we have available in 2016 for any formula. So I'm going to come over here and we'll just look at this wire and we'll get into the wire style here, this properties. Notice I've got a formula right now that is just calling out this equipotential order number. You will be able to have this new tab that is right here called functions. Notice that the variables are a lot larger now. They are trying to make global variables that are a little bit more understandable in any specific area so that you'll be able to use them. But not only that, but they've added this function chart. This function chart is probably one of the best scenarios that we've got because now they have actually listed every one of the actual functions that you can do in an equation. And not only that, but it shows you how. What's really nice about that is you can actually test. We have a calculator now. So before you even implement anything in here, so say I will go ahead and maybe I'm going to come to the front of this and just add something else. We'll call it maybe the location tag. I can go ahead and hit this calculator. I can change any part of this and notice that immediately the results are coming in to show you what you are going to see. So you make a complex formula, you'll be able to test it out before you actually implement it in your project to actually see -1s or +1s, and then you can't figure out where your formula has got a problem. Here, this is going to give you some added functionality that you probably didn't have before and make it a whole lot easier for you to work with. Hopefully you find this one as exciting as I do, because this is just, to me, is absolutely awesome. It's something that they've needed for a while, and they've put that one in because they've listened to the users, and here it is. So very excited for that one. Another one that was asked for by a number of users was the fact that everybody is familiar with the fact of that we have a macro tab and that you can add macros to a from anything you've designed to create new projects. We've added a new section. What this is not only are you creating macros through your circuits, but you can add macros by a number of sheets now. So you could take let's just go ahead here, we'll go from sheet 6 to 13. When I highlight that and hold the shift key and then right click, I now have this thing called create a project macro. What this is going to do is take all of the sheets that I have selected and now make them a macro that I can now use. Now, the best part about this is not only do you have this capability of course, creating a name and creating where it's going to be utilized, but when I want to go ahead and utilize that, I'm going to go over here to Project 2, or my book number 2, and notice I have no sheets here. I can right-click and I can insert a project macro. I can find that specific macro. So I believe here it's probably, I created one just a few minutes ago that was called test. It was just sheets 6 through 9. I'm going to grab that and go ahead and select it. What that's going to do now, I have the ability to make changes throughout the macro. I can make changes to the drawing numbers. I can change locations. I can even associate to existing locations. So I have that capability, especially when it comes to things like wires or wire numbers. I can actually reassociate them to specifics here. The wire styles, you do not have to worry about it creating a new wire style that you have to rename. You can now actually utilize your existing wires and associate those to that existing group. And now all of a sudden, life is grand because you no longer have to worry about the fact of it's creating all this extra new stuff that you didn't want. If you wanted it, great, you've got that opportunity to do that, but this is giving you that opportunity to now associate to things that are already in your project without you having to do any type of cleanup. This one was big as far as I was concerned because it gives you that added capability. Once you are ready, oh, I guess I didn't hit the right button there. Give it a second. Yeah, I did. It just takes a minute to actually create. And now notice I have 4 new sheets, and it is identical to what I had in the other project. So I believe this was the other one. Yep. So really, really big enhancement here that they created with this project macros. Something that you don't normally see a whole lot of. And now all of a sudden, if you've got a PLC that you want to make into a macro, you can do it very quickly here with this project macros. So let's go into the next one. Here I've got a standard, just a harness, nothing major here, just a number of connections. And of course, the first thing that happens is you're having to go through and right-click to each one of these to create, add it to a specific harness. You now have the capability under your component tree. Let me go here, and I've got all those components assigned to location number 6. I can actually highlight the components now in the component tree instead of on the schematic. And if I, whoops, let's just go ahead and make sure I grab all of them. I can assign them directly to a harness from here. Now when I do, notice that it automatically is picking up the wires. I'm not having to grab all of the wires here. It will automatically put that in. I can create a new harness here. Let's go ahead and just create H1. Go ahead and add that to the harness there. And notice that immediately now if I go to my harness my harness manager, sorry, not manufacturer, but if I go to that, it will automatically now create all of those for me. I do not have to do them through circuits. So if you're spread across specific pages, you can come right here to this component tree and do the add to harness right from there. Now another one that I realize I'm going through this extremely quick. I apologize, but we only have a half an hour, so I apologize for how quick we're going through some of this. You can always contact us afterwards if you need further details, and we are recording this. Reports. Everybody likes to create their own reports. Everybody likes to modify their own reports. We have a great new thing here that I am really excited about. I've got just a standard bill of materials here. I have an add filter. What this will allow me to do, let me go ahead here and I will show you that I have this set up. I've got AMP as the very first filter, the very first manufacturer here. Without ever having to go into the properties of the project, without ever having to go into Activate Expert mode, I can highlight this report and I can add a filter. This filter will allow me to create extra conditions, just like if you went into Activate Expert mode. But what this does is allow me to do things like, let's just go ahead and pick this manufacturer, and maybe I don't want, or maybe I want to see everything that is just by AMP. I now have a bill of materials that I can do just that. I can edit the filter. Maybe I want to do just the opposite. Maybe I want to have everything but AMP. This bottom one here is not equal to with the exclamation and the equal sign. I simply say OK. And now everything is here but AMP. I can do that with any of these projects. It is strictly a filter, but what it is doing, notice here's my original bill of materials. Here is my filtered bill of materials. It is actually creating another report for you. Now, if you've created this and now you want to go ahead and add it to be able to be used in other projects, you will have to go through to your project. You're going to want to save this by renaming the properties here so that you get a different name so that it doesn't overwrite your existing bill of materials XML. You're going to want to create a new name for it, and then of course go through that report configuration and save it back to the application for everyone to be able to use. Great way to start working with your reports to be able to modify those the way you're looking for. And a couple last quick minute things here that I want to show you. A lot of times what ends up happening is if you're working on a desktop or a laptop and you happen to have multiple screens and you happen to take this and you're moving it over onto another screen, and then of course you disconnect and you go offline. Now you still want to be able to use the software, but you don't have those additional monitors, but yet these windows were over on other screens, so it was always very hard to bring those back. You could do it with the alternate key, and I believe it was the arrow keys. What we have now available under View is the fact that we have a Restore Panel Layout. You can also save your panel layout. So say you're jumping back and forth between the different areas, whether it be going through, and the restore would be if you are using multiple screens, you want to save those settings so that the panels are where you had them. You can do that. You can restore it to that one, but you also have a reset. This reset will bring everything back to default, back to your laptop, back to where they normally would be if you did a default install. So that being the case, it's giving you a lot more flexibility without having to reset up exactly where those windows are. Now, the last thing I want to mention, there are lots of other features, but these are the main ones. Let's just go ahead. All right, the last one that I want to mention to you, if you're familiar with our tools here, you are familiar with the fact that you can get SOLIDWORKS. You can go onto our electrical content portal, which I have spoken with a number of you about. That electrical content portal, you have had to in the past go ahead and ask for library subscription information or getting it moved from silver to gold. If you are on 2016, the minute that you have that, you can update that yourself just by clicking this button. Once you have logged in and gotten your silver membership, you can click on here and it will automatically request you for gold. This normally takes less than 30 seconds to get a gold membership now. Of course, there's no money for it. It is strictly just a matter of increase in your subscription, so that way you have access to those gold catalogs. And with that, if you would hang on one moment here, I do have a couple of things I would like to go through with you. First of all, if you have any questions or any types of complications with the software, please do not hesitate to contact us here at the SCI at the help desk. We definitely love to hear from you, so if you would, please give us a call. Secondly, I've got a couple of quick questions here. If you would, please answer these. I would greatly appreciate your feedback. The first being, if you found this webinar useful with the information here. Give you a couple of minutes. Okay, everyone looks like they have voted. Great. I got another question here that I would like to ask of you. What did you feel as far as these enhancements? Did you like the enhancements? Were a few of them worthwhile or none of them at all? All right, and then lastly, I have one last question for you, and that's basically, how did you hear about this webinar? I know that a number of people have heard a number of different ways. I'm not quite sure which way you all have heard from this, so if you would please answer those, I would greatly appreciate it. All right there. Okay, so we are finished. I greatly appreciate your time here. Have a fantastic day. Thanks.